There is something beautiful that happens when the Holy Spirit begins to awaken your awareness of God's presence. It is not loud, it is not forced, and it is not something that can be manufactured by human effort. It is gentle yet undeniable. One moment, life feels ordinary, routine, even heavy, and then suddenly there is a realization deep within your spirit: God is here. You see, many people live their lives believing in God, yet unaware of His nearness. They pray to Him as if He is far away, they seek Him as if He is hidden, and they hope one day to encounter Him in some distant moment. But the Holy Spirit comes to change that perception completely. He opens the eyes of your heart so you begin to understand that God is not distant. He is not removed. He is present, closer than your next breath. And when this awareness begins, everything starts to shift. The Holy Spirit doesn't always announce His work with dramatic signs. Often, it begins in quiet moments, perhaps in a stillness you cannot explain, or a peace that settles over you without reason. Perhaps while you are alone, or even in the middle of a busy day, there comes a gentle awareness: He is here. Not just around you, but with you, and even within you. This is where the journey truly begins. Because once you become aware of His presence, life can never return to being ordinary again. The same room feels different, the same prayers feel deeper. Even silence becomes meaningful because it is no longer empty, it is filled with Him. The Holy Spirit trains your heart to recognize these moments. He teaches you to pause, to listen, to become sensitive to the reality of God's nearness. And the more you respond to that gentle awareness, the stronger it becomes. What once felt unfamiliar begins to feel natural. What once felt distant becomes constant. You begin to realize that God is not only present in church services or special spiritual moments. He is present in your everyday life, in your thoughts, in your decisions, in your quiet reflections, and even in your struggles. The Holy Spirit reveals that there is no place you can go where God is not already there, waiting to be recognized. And oh, what a difference it makes when you truly see this. Because awareness changes how you live. When you know He is near, you begin to speak differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet reverence, not out of fear, but out of love. There is a tenderness that develops in your heart, a desire not to grieve His presence, but to remain aware of it. The Holy Spirit does not force this awareness upon you. He invites you into it. He gently draws your attention again and again, whispering to your spirit, reminding you God is here. And each time you respond, each time you acknowledge that presence, your relationship with Him deepens. It becomes less about striving and more about abiding. You stop trying to reach God, and you start learning to walk with Him. You begin to understand that His presence is not something you visit, it is somewhere you live. Every step, every moment, every breath can be taken in the awareness of Him. And even in moments when you feel weak or distracted or overwhelmed, the Holy Spirit remains faithful. He brings you back. He gently restores your awareness. He reminds you again that you are not alone, that you have never been alone, and that God has been with you all along. This is the beginning of living in God's presence, not a feeling you chase, but a reality you awaken to. And once your eyes are opened by the Holy Spirit, you will never see your life the same way again. And as that awareness begins to settle within your heart, something even deeper starts to unfold. It is no longer just the realization that God is near, but an invitation, an ongoing, gentle drawing into fellowship with Him. The Holy Spirit does not awaken your awareness of God's presence only for you to acknowledge it and move on. No, He invites you to remain there, to dwell there, to live in a continuous relationship with the one who is already so close. You begin to sense that this presence is not meant to be visited occasionally, but embraced daily. The Holy Spirit draws you into moments of communion that are not bound by time or place. It is not limited to a specific hour of prayer or a certain environment. It becomes a living connection, something that flows through your day, quietly and consistently. And oh, how gently He leads you into this. There is no pressure in His invitation. There is no demand that you perform or prove anything. Instead, there is a tender calling, a whisper within your spirit that says, "Come closer." And you begin to respond, not out of obligation, but out of desire. Because once you have tasted even a glimpse of His presence, your heart longs for more. You find yourself wanting to talk to Him, not just in formal prayers, but in simple, honest conversation. You begin to share your thoughts, your concerns, your gratitude. And in those moments, something sacred happens. The Holy Spirit makes that connection real. He takes what might seem like ordinary words and turns them into living fellowship with God. And then there are the quiet moments. Moments when words are no longer necessary. When you simply sit, aware that He is there. The Holy Spirit teaches you that fellowship is not always about speaking. Sometimes it is about listening. Sometimes it is about resting in his presence, allowing his peace to fill every part of you. In a world that is constantly moving, constantly demanding your attention, these moments become a refuge for your soul. You begin to realize that fellowship with God is not complicated. It is not something reserved for the spiritually elite. It is simple yet profound. It is a relationship built on closeness, on awareness, on a heart that is open and responsive to Him. And the more you enter into this daily fellowship, the more natural it becomes. What once felt unfamiliar begins to feel like home. You begin to carry an inner awareness of Him wherever you go. Whether you are walking, working, or resting, there is a quiet connection that remains. The Holy Spirit keeps that flame alive within you, reminding you again and again that you are never separated from God's presence. Even in the middle of busy moments, you can turn your heart toward Him. Even in the middle of responsibilities and distractions, there is a gentle way to remain connected. The Holy Spirit makes it possible to live a life where your spirit stays in communion with God, even while your hands are occupied with the demands of life. And something begins to change within you. Your dependence shifts. Instead of relying solely on your own strength or understanding, you begin to lean on Him. You begin to seek His presence not just in moments of need, but in every moment. Fellowship becomes your source of strength, your place of peace, your foundation in every situation. And when you miss those moments, you feel it. Not as guilt, but as a longing. A quiet awareness that something is missing, and the Holy Spirit gently draws you back again, not with condemnation, but with love. He restores that connection, reminding you that the invitation is always open. This is what it means to live in daily fellowship with God, not a routine, but a relationship. Not an obligation, but a desire that grows deeper with every moment you spend with Him. And as you continue to respond to that invitation, you will find that His presence is no longer something you seek occasionally, but something you carry continually. And as that fellowship deepens, something remarkable begins to take place in the way you live your life. The Holy Spirit does not remain only as a comforting presence or a quiet companion. He becomes your guide. Not only in the great life-altering decisions, but in the small, seemingly insignificant steps that make up your everyday walk. You begin to discover that God is not silent about your life. He is not distant, watching from afar, leaving you to figure everything out on your own. Through the Holy Spirit, He is actively involved, gently leading, carefully directing, and faithfully guiding you step by step. And this guidance is often far more subtle than people expect. It is not always a loud voice or a dramatic sign. More often, it is a quiet knowing deep within your spirit, a sense of peace about one direction and a hesitation about another. The Holy Spirit speaks in ways that require sensitivity, through impressions, through conviction, through a stillness that settles when you are aligned with God's will. At first you may question it, you may wonder if it is truly Him, but as you continue in fellowship, as your awareness grows, you begin to recognize His voice more clearly. There is a distinct quality to His leading, gentle yet firm, peaceful yet persuasive. He does not confuse you, and He does not drive you with fear. He leads with peace. And when you follow that peace, something beautiful happens. Even when the path is uncertain, there is a confidence within you. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who is leading you. The Holy Spirit does not always show you the entire journey at once. Instead, He gives you one step and then another, teaching you to walk by faith and not by sight. This kind of guidance requires surrender, because there will be moments when His leading does not align with your own plans or expectations. There will be times when He prompts you to wait when you want to move, or to move when you feel unprepared. And in those moments you are faced with a choice. Will you rely on your own understanding, or will you trust His direction? The more you choose to trust Him, the more clearly you will hear Him. And even in your imperfections, even when you miss it or hesitate, the Holy Spirit remains patient. He does not abandon you when you struggle to follow. Instead, He gently corrects, gently redirects, always bringing you back to the path of God's will. You begin to see that His guidance is not limited to spiritual matters alone. He cares about every part of your life. The decisions you make, the words you speak, the relationships you build, He is involved in all of it. Nothing is too small for His attention, and nothing is too complex for His wisdom. And as you walk in this kind of guidance, your life begins to take on a different rhythm. You become less reactive and more responsive. Instead of rushing ahead, you learn to pause. Instead of striving, you learn to listen. The Holy Spirit teaches you to move in step with Him, to recognize His timing, and to trust His direction even when it doesn't make sense to your natural mind. There is a peace that comes with this kind of living, a deep assurance that you are not navigating life alone, that every step you take is being ordered, not by chance, but by the loving guidance of God Himself. And even when the road becomes difficult, even when you face uncertainty, there is a steady confidence within you. You are being led. This is not a life free from questions, but it is a life anchored in trust. And over time you begin to look back and see how faithfully he has guided you. The doors he opened, the ones he closed, the paths he redirected. What once seemed unclear becomes a testimony of his wisdom and care. The Holy Spirit does not lead you aimlessly. He leads you with purpose, with intention, with a perfect understanding of where you are and where you are meant to be. And as you continue to follow his guidance, step by step, you will find yourself walking not just through life, but in alignment with the very will of God. And as you continue to follow his guidance, something even deeper begins to take place within you. It is no longer only about where he is leading you, but about who you are becoming along the way. The Holy Spirit does not simply direct your steps, he transforms your heart. You begin to notice it, sometimes quietly, sometimes profoundly. The things that once held your attention begin to lose their grip. The thoughts that once filled your mind begin to shift. The reactions that once came so naturally begin to change. It is not something you are forcing, and it is not something you could produce on your own. It is the work of the Holy Spirit within you, shaping you to reflect the very nature of God. This transformation is not outward first, it begins deep within. The Holy Spirit gently deals with the hidden places of your heart, the attitudes no one else sees, the motives behind your actions, the thoughts you entertain when you are alone. And he does this not with harshness, but with a tender conviction that draws you closer, not pushes you away. There is a holiness in his presence that begins to awaken a desire within you, a desire to be pleasing to God, not out of fear, but out of love. You begin to care about things you may have once ignored. You become sensitive to what grieves his presence, and you find yourself longing to remain in that place of closeness with him. And this is where true transformation happens. Because the Holy Spirit does not only reveal what needs to change, he empowers the change itself. You are not left to struggle in your own strength. He works within you, giving you new desires, new perspectives, and new strength to walk in a way that reflects God's heart. Love begins to grow where there was once indifference. Patience begins to take root where there was once frustration. Peace begins to settle where there was once anxiety. It is not immediate perfection, but it is a real and ongoing transformation that becomes evident over time. You begin to respond differently to people. Situations that once triggered anger now invite grace. Circumstances that once caused fear now become opportunities for trust. The Holy Spirit reshapes your inner world, and as a result, your outward life begins to reflect that change. And it happens as you remain in his presence. Not through striving, not through pressure, but through abiding. The more you stay connected to him, the more his nature flows into you. It is like being in a place where his character begins to imprint itself upon your soul. You begin to carry his gentleness, his compassion, his truth. There is also a refining that takes place. At times, the Holy Spirit will gently confront areas in your life that do not align with God's nature. Not to condemn you, but to free you. He reveals what needs to be surrendered, what needs to be released, and what needs to be renewed. And though it may not always be easy, there is a deep peace in knowing that he is working for your good, because he sees what you are becoming. He is not focused only on where you are right now, but on the person you are being shaped into. A person who reflects God's love, God's purity, God's presence in a real and living way. And as this transformation continues, something beautiful begins to happen. You become a reflection of the presence you carry. People begin to sense it, even if they cannot explain it. There is a difference in you, a calmness, a kindness, a depth that speaks without words. It is not about drawing attention to yourself, but about revealing the one who lives within you. And you begin to understand that this is part of the purpose of his work in your life. The Holy Spirit is not only preparing you for your own walk with God, but also making you a vessel through which others can encounter his presence. Your life becomes a testimony, not just of what God has done for you, but of who he is within you. And all of this flows from one place, remaining close to him, staying aware, staying in fellowship, staying surrendered to his guidance, because it is in that place that transformation continues, day by day, moment by moment. And as you yield to his work within you, you will find that you are no longer just walking in God's presence, you are beginning to reflect it. And as this transformation continues within you, there comes a moment when your walk with God is no longer defined only by peace and sweetness, but also by how you stand in the midst of difficulty. Because living in God's presence does not remove you from the realities of life, it anchors you through them. And it is here that the strength of the Holy Spirit becomes not just something you sense, but something you depend on. There will be moments you did not expect, seasons that feel heavy, situations that seem beyond your ability to understand or endure. And in those moments, it may feel as though everything around you is shifting. But deep within, there is something that remains steady, not because of your own strength, but because the Holy Spirit is with you. You begin to realize that His presence is not only for the quiet moments, but also for the difficult ones. When pressure comes, when uncertainty surrounds you, when you feel weak or overwhelmed, the Holy Spirit does not step back, He draws closer. He becomes your comfort in a way that is deeply personal, not distant, not theoretical, but real. There is a peace He gives that does not always change your circumstances, but it changes how you stand within them. And that peace is not fragile. It holds you when your emotions are unsettled. It steadies you when your thoughts begin to race. It reminds you that even when you cannot see what lies ahead, you are not walking through it alone. The Holy Spirit becomes your reassurance that God is still present, still working, still faithful. There are moments when words fail you, moments when you do not know how to pray or what to say or how to express what is happening inside you. And yet even there the Holy Spirit is at work. He understands the depth of your heart. He carries what you cannot express. There is a quiet strengthening that takes place, beyond what you can explain but undeniable in its effect. You find yourself able to continue when you thought you could not. Not because everything has become easy, but because something within you has become stronger. The Holy Spirit gives you endurance. Not a forced endurance, but a steady, sustaining strength that keeps you moving forward, one step at a time. And in the middle of challenges, something else begins to happen. Your trust deepens. Because when everything is going well, it is easy to speak of faith. But when you are walking through uncertainty, when answers are not immediate, when the path is unclear, that is when trust becomes real. And the Holy Spirit gently leads you into that place, not to overwhelm you, but to anchor you more deeply in God. You begin to lean on Him in a way you never have before. Instead of relying on what you see, you begin to rely on His presence. Instead of being controlled by fear, you begin to rest in the assurance that He is with you. And even when emotions rise, even when questions come, there is a deeper knowing that holds you steady. He is faithful. And the Holy Spirit reminds you of that again and again. There is also a courage that begins to rise within you, not a loud or aggressive courage, but a quiet confidence. A strength that allows you to face what is in front of you without turning away. You begin to understand that you do not need to have all the answers, you only need to stay close to Him. And in staying close, you are sustained. Even in moments of weakness, His strength becomes evident. Even in moments of doubt, His presence brings clarity. Even in moments when you feel like you cannot go on, He gives you just enough strength for the next step. And over time, you begin to see something beautiful. What once felt like a struggle becomes a testimony. What once felt overwhelming becomes a reminder of His faithfulness. You begin to look back and realize that you were never alone, not for a single moment. The Holy Spirit was there, strengthening you, carrying you, guiding you through every challenge you faced. And this changes how you see difficulties. They are no longer only obstacles. They become places where God's presence is revealed in a deeper way. Places where your relationship with Him grows stronger. Places where your faith becomes more than words. Because in those moments, you are not just learning about His presence, you are experiencing it. And as you continue to walk through both the peaceful and the difficult seasons, you will come to understand this truth in a deeper way. His presence is not just with you in the light, but also in the fire, and it is there that His strength becomes undeniable. And as you continue to walk in this awareness, this fellowship, this guidance, this transformation, and this strength, something begins to overflow from your life. It cannot remain contained within you. The presence of God, so real and so living within your heart, begins to reach beyond you. And you start to understand that this journey was never meant to end with you, it was always meant to flow through you. The Holy Spirit does not only draw you into God's presence for your own comfort or growth, He also empowers you to carry that presence into the lives of others. Not in a way that is forced or artificial, but in a way that is natural, authentic, and deeply impactful. You begin to notice it in the simplest moments, in the way you speak to someone, in the way you listen, in the way you respond to need, to pain, to brokenness around you. There is something different now. You are no longer responding only from your own understanding. You are responding from a place that has been shaped by His presence. And people begin to sense it. They may not always have the words to describe it, but they feel it. A peace that calms them, a kindness that reaches them, a sincerity that draws them in. It is not about you, it is about the presence you carry. The Holy Spirit makes God's love tangible through your life in ways that go beyond what words alone can accomplish. And then there are moments when He prompts you, a quiet nudge to speak, a gentle leading to encourage someone, a sense that you should pause and pray or offer a word that brings hope. These moments may seem small, but they carry great significance, because when you respond to the Holy Spirit, you become a vessel through which God touches another life. You do not have to strive to make something happen. You simply remain available. The same Holy Spirit who has been guiding you, transforming you, and strengthening you now works through you. And as you yield to Him, He brings life where there is heaviness, clarity where there is confusion, and comfort where there is pain. You begin to see that your life has purpose beyond your own journey. Every interaction becomes an opportunity. Every relationship becomes a place where God's presence can be revealed. You carry something eternal into ordinary moments, and those moments begin to take on new meaning. There is also a boldness that grows within you. Not a boldness rooted in pride or self-confidence, but one that comes from knowing that you are not alone. The Holy Spirit gives you the courage to step forward, to be led, to speak when needed, and to act when prompted. You begin to trust that He will give you what you need in the moment. And as you step out, even in small ways, you begin to see the impact. Lives are touched, hearts are encouraged, situations begin to shift, not because of anything you have manufactured, but because the presence of God is moving through a yielded life. You also come to understand that carrying His presence is not about perfection. It is about surrender. It is about staying close to Him, remaining sensitive to His leading, and allowing Him to work through you just as you are. The more you abide in His presence, the more naturally His presence flows through you. And this becomes a way of living, not something you turn on or off, but something that continues wherever you go. Whether in quiet conversations or significant moments, the Holy Spirit is with you, working through you, making God known in ways that are real and personal. You begin to realize that this is part of the beauty of walking with Him, that the same presence that comforts you also comforts others through you. The same peace that steadies you begins to steady those around you. The same love that has transformed your heart begins to reach into the hearts of others. And as this continues, your life becomes more than a personal journey. It becomes a living expression of God's presence in the world. Not through striving, not through effort alone, but through a life that is yielded, aware, and connected to Him. And in this you find a deeper fulfillment. Because you are not only walking in His presence, you are carrying it. And wherever you go, His presence goes with you, touching lives in ways you may never fully see, but in ways that will echo far beyond the moment.